Imagine the mushroom kingdom at full tilt. Power-up shops are sold out, factories are running at 100% capacity, and gold coins are circulating as fast as consumers can find them. Then the music stops. Almost overnight, that frantic economic momentum vanishes, replaced by a kingdom-wide pause, where coins stop changing hands and projects are put on hold. This chart tracks the kingdom's gross domestic product, or GDP, the total market value of everything produced. When the line angles down, it shows that the economy is no longer growing, it's actively shrinking. A brief dip isn't enough to change the kingdom's status. Economists define a recession by a specific technical threshold. GDP must fall for 2 consecutive quarters, or 6 months. When this 6-month threshold is crossed, it signals a process where a single drop in output pulls down the rest of the kingdom's systems. To stop that descent, we have to look at what pulls the first trigger. The first major trigger for a recession comes from the buyers, what economists call a collapse in aggregate demand. This is often driven by psychology. If borrowing money becomes too expensive, or if consumers fear for their future, they stop spending and start hoarding gold in brick blocks for safety. We saw the impact of this in 2008, when a lack of confidence caused demand for goods around the world to decline simultaneously, leaving households and businesses unwilling to take risks. An economy relies on the constant movement of money. When consumers collectively freeze their spending, the engine that powers the kingdom's growth starves. Sometimes, however, the problem isn't a lack of buyers. The shock can originate on the supply side, where the resources needed to produce goods simply aren't available. A decrease in the quantity of resources, like extreme weather destroying crops or skilled workers leaving the kingdom, physically limits how much can be produced, shrinking the total economic output. Productivity also relies on the quality of resources. Degraded soil, outdated technology, or a lack of investment in worker education means the kingdom produces less for every hour worked. There is a critical distinction here. Demand shocks happen because people refuse to buy, while supply shocks occur when the kingdom is physically unable to produce. Whether the failure starts with empty cash registers or withered fields, the macroeconomic result is the same. The kingdom's GDP shrinks. As the kingdom's output falls, the first to feel the pressure are the producers. Falling demand means shrinking profits. For many smaller firms, the loss of revenue makes it impossible to cover costs, leading to business failures and bankruptcies. Because these businesses are producing less, they need fewer workers. This creates cyclical unemployment, where the loss of jobs is a direct result of the lack of demand in the economy. A lengthy absence from the workforce erodes the individual. It leads to a documented decline in physical health, mental well-being, and professional skills. When workers lose their income, they become the next wave of anxious consumers, further reducing the kingdom's spending and accelerating the recession. This fear spreads even to those who still have jobs. They reduce their living standards and hoard cash, worried that they might be the next to face a layoff. This behavior can trigger a deflationary spiral. Falling demand forces firms to lower prices to attract buyers, which reduces incomes further and leads to the kind of long-term stagnation seen in countries like Greece. This leads to a structural squeeze on the government's finances, where revenue and obligations move in opposite directions. First, because sales are low and people are out of work, the government collects significantly less in tax revenue. Simultaneously, the government must spend more on welfare and health care for the unemployed. As spending outpaces revenue, the system tilts into a budget deficit. By tracking unemployment directly to these fiscal pressures, we see exactly how a labor crisis transforms into a state budget deficit. A recession is an interconnected cycle. Whether the shock begins with demand or supply, it eventually pulls the kingdom's businesses, workers, and government down together.